Welcome back to 30 Days of Persuasion Plays with me, Paul Macetta. Today's episode, the positioning outweighs the procedure. The positioning outweighs the procedure. So this is for online thought leaders, entrepreneurs, people that are either trying to gain notoriety for themselves, gain authority, gain a following, or they sell a particular product or service. It might not necessarily be them, but they sell a product or service, and it has to do with positioning. Positioning is super powerful, super important. The way that you position something can completely change the way the world perceives it. And there's many different ways of positioning things. You can position something as going from something that's going to give you an edge to something that satisfies the need or the desire of greed. There are a million different ways to position things. You can also position things based on where they fall in the marketplace. In other words, you can position something to be the number one leader in the marketplace, right? Because we all know that the number one leader is always the one that people remember, right? Who's the first president of the United States? George Washington, right? Who's the second? I don't remember. Who's the first person you ever slept with? You remember their name? You remember the second? May have to think for a few minutes, right? So we always tend to remember the first person or the first thing to kind of stake their claim in the world. And positioning is one way to do that. That's one form of positioning, being the first to the market or the first to do something. And how you do that is just by simply changing. If you're not the first to the market to do something, then you change what you're saying about the product or the service. So let me give you an example. There is a famous story about an advertiser many, many moons ago. I think it was Claude Hopkins, who wrote the book Scientific Advertising. Definitely a great book that you would want to read. Let me see if you can get that on Amazon. Scientific Advertising. Claude Hopkins. Yes, you can pick it up. This book is 99 cents on Amazon. You can download the Kindle version for 99 cents. Really awesome book. Definitely one that everybody should read. And so Claude tells the story about how years ago he was hired to run ads for Schlitz beer. And when he was hired, he immediately was going and looking for, strong points that he could talk about. And what he noticed was the filtration process that they used to make the beer. And so he asked the person that he was talking to about how the process took place, and he explained to them that they go through X, Y, Z process to filter the beer, right? And so he said, well, how come you're not talking about that in your marketing? And the person said, well, that's because that's how everybody filters their beer, or that's the process that every distributor uses in the filtration process. And he said, yes, but not everyone else is talking about that, right? So they were the first on the market to start talking about that process that they use to filter the beer, right? And so my point is that when looking for positioning and how to position a product or a service, if you're not first to the market, you can find ways to talk about something else that makes you the first to the market. That's just one way of positioning. So the point of this is that the positioning outweighs the procedure, right? So again, circling back to this example that I just gave you, all Claude did was identify a procedure. It was the same procedure that everyone else used, but he focused on the positioning of that procedure. So the positioning always outweighs the procedure. So tip number one is talk about the benefits of your product or service before you talk about the features of your product or service. So the feature of a product is that this is a 32-bit computer, laptop, it's got XYZ resolution, it's got an XYZ battery in it, it's got an XYZ operating system in it, it's got 500 gigabytes of memory in it, right? Those are features of this product. What are the benefits of it? Well, the benefits of the resolution are that I'm going to see a much clearer picture. The benefits of the memory are that I'm going to be able to store all of my 1080p HD videos on here along with all my music and not have to worry about running out of space, right? The benefits of the type of operating system are that I hit the power button and the computer is up and running within 15 seconds. So there's a difference between features and benefits. A lot of times I see marketers, salespeople, online thought leaders, entrepreneurs get so stuck on the features of a product. Features are important and you should include them just to make the person feel like they're getting the best deal possible. But benefits are ultimately more important than features. So if you had to choose one, talk about the benefits. Talk about what those features do for the person who purchases the product or the service. Next is that the process is only relevant if it's relevant to them. The process is only relevant if it's relevant to them. So again, a lot of people get caught up in talking about the process of the way that their product or service was created. They get so hung up on what they went through to create that product or service. But the reality is the customer doesn't care unless it's relevant to them. So, for example, if I went and created a program to teach you how to influence and persuade other people, and I spent a total of 20 hours creating the product, right? I recorded for 20 hours. I made a couple of, well, let's say I recorded for 15 hours. I made 5 hours of mistakes. I had to change that. I had to spend X amount of time editing. Then I had to take the videos and I had to compress them because high definition long videos take longer to play on a computer. So I had to shrink them down and compress them. Then we have to upload them to the server. Then we have to create a nice membership area for you so you can access all of them. Guess what? You as the customer don't care about that. You don't care about the fact that I had to sit in front of the computer and record this video 10 times until I got it right. And then we had to edit the video, and then we had to upload it, and then we had to make a nice pretty looking website, dashboard, membership portal for you, right? You don't care about that. What you care about is whether or not the information that I'm going to deliver in the training is going to get you the result that you want. So in that case, the process is not relevant to the customer, right? But if the person was buying a rare diamond, let's say, right? So now the context, again, I talk about this in earlier videos. The three variables that affect your ability to persuade are the context, the environment, and the situation. Because if you use the wrong technique, if you use a certain technique in the wrong context or vice versa, it's not going to work. So now the context of the situation has changed. In context one, I'm selling a result. So the person doesn't care about the process. In context two, I'm selling a tangible thing whose value is predetermined by the customer by the rarity of the diamond, right? Because why do people buy diamonds? Part of the reason why people buy diamonds is because we've been tricked into believing that they're rare. Let me tell you something. I've been on this earth almost 38 years and we still haven't ran out of diamonds. You know why? Because diamonds aren't rare. But somebody planted that suggestion in our minds, God knows how long ago, and we still believe it. We still believe that diamonds are rare. So in the context of that purchase, the person is already going in thinking about how rare the diamond is. If I start talking about what we went through, how we had to fly to Africa, get into this cave, spend 20 days in this cave using all of this high-tech equipment to find this one particular diamond, then yes, in that context, the process matters because the person is ultimately really judging the value of that based on what we went through to get it. So I hope you can see really where I'm going with this. The process is only relevant if the customer believes that it's relevant or if it's relevant to them. The third tip is to make it about them, not about you or what you put into that process. So again, talk about the positioning, talk about the features, talk about what that person is going to get out of that product or service. Realize again that we are emotional creatures. We are emotional first and logical second, especially when we buy stuff. We buy stuff based on emotion, and then we use logic to justify why we made that purchase. And there are many different emotions that cause people to buy. Some people buy because they want to resolve some sort of pain. Some people buy because they want to experience some sort of pleasure. But then there's a deeper level to that. Some people buy because they're greedy. They want to satisfy the desire of greed. Some people buy because they want to experience the desire of joy. They desire joy. They desire happiness. They think that a certain product or service is going to provide that for them. Some people buy because of guilt. They feel guilty about something. Maybe they feel like they haven't provided the type of life for their family that their family deserves. And so they buy a product or a service to help them become a better person or to become more financially stable so that they can provide that life, whatever. The bottom line is that there are desires that are driving our emotions to spend money, to say yes, to comply, to agree. And so by making the product or service and the positioning about those desires and how your product or service satisfies those desires, as opposed to what you put into creating it, is much more powerful. So again, the positioning outweighs the procedure. Talk more about the features than the benefits. The process is only relevant if it's relevant to the customer, the prospect, the person you're speaking to, trying to convey your message to, whatever. Make it about them, not about you or what you put into the creation of the product or service. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, leave a comment, and make sure you subscribe.